Welcome back to the channel. This week we're back on our twin turbo Lincoln Continental. I know we've taken a little hiatus from this car on our channel, but that doesn't mean we haven't been working on it in the shop. This week we're gonna be cutting into that hood, and yeah, I know you guys love when we cut into the hoods. But we're gonna be building a custom hood scoop, not only to get that intake manifold underneath the hood, but also to bring some cool air into the engine compartment. We're also gonna be jumping back into the interior, doing some more custom fab work on the dash and our center console, and building out some custom kicker panels. So enough talking, let's get to work. Wanted to mainly check the clearance here, make sure this wasn't too tall, that it would hit that, and essentially the spacing back here. So what I will do is cut out a template and kind of tape it up just to do another check to make sure I have the clearance so before I make my actual bracing go all the way across. Just we felt like this was looking a little empty, so we cut this out, help give it some strength when we kind of weld it in. Next thing I have to do, kind of scribe this a bit so we can kind of fold it in and fit it in there nice and perfect. All right, so our Brady's got our hood all done. Before we go shutting it, so we can show you guys how it looks on a finished product, let's take a look here in our engine compartment. I had some a little test run done on some gold plating. We had our AC lines done that Andrew bent. These are already custom. Now they're gold plated. I think it looks really sharp. I think we're gonna go ahead and probably continue that same gold plate look on all of our hard lines under the engine compartment, as well as maybe our fuel rails. A couple little odds and ends. We're not gonna get too crazy. I really love the look of the raw metal in here. I don't know, maybe we do our valve cover or something. We don't want to get too gold, but I do like the little accent. So let's get this hood shut. Let's take a look at it. So as you guys see, it looks, you know, the body lines are all kind of very similar to what, you know, if Lincoln did offer a hood scoop on a Lincoln Continental, I think it would probably look like this. So you got a nice opening here for our cold air to come in. And then obviously we have the exit back here on the other side with some nice perforated metal. I think that looks real sharp. And Andrew, not only does it look sharp, it's functional, correct?
Yeah, the reason that we have the holes in the front of the hood, as well as the cowl, we have our filter box for our air intake located right here in the front. And then as far as the cowling goes, we needed space to fit our intercooler. So we raised up the hood instead of just cutting a big hole like the last Lincoln.
Yeah, so Brady did a bunch of work to the hood. He had to add a bunch of bracing. I think he did a real nice job. So once this thing gets painted, I think it's gonna look real sharp. So, I don't know, enough of the hood talk. Andrew, what's our next step?
We're gonna pass the torch over to Dave, and he's gonna be fabricating on the inside on some speaker kick panels.
All right. Get to it, Dave.
All right, we are underneath the front passenger seat, and we got all of our ECU stuff mounted. Next, we're gonna start closing out the side so we can make a kicker panel. Whoever had the car before had this sort of homemade speaker setup. I don't remember how it goes, something like this. And there's another factory panel behind this one. So we're gonna go ahead and make a plate to go in here. That way we can get a speaker back sitting in here. So we're gonna close off back to our ECU plate, down over to the firewall, back over again. And then once that's in place, then we can start thinking about how we're gonna mount our speaker to it. Now that we got our kick panels mounted in here, we're gonna go ahead and make a sort of a speaker bump out, so that way we can mount the speaker, have room for the magnet behind it, make it nice and round. It will get welded to this kick panel. We're gonna go ahead and make a glove box compartment. I have it outlined here. It's gonna be much smaller than the original because of the size of the center console and all the new dimensions. We're gonna not be utilizing the original cover, but I did cut down and use the original hinge assembly, which bolts under here, but now it's gonna be a shorter width. So I'm gonna go ahead, cut this out. Once I have it cut out, I could take measurements of this rectangle. I've already taken measurements of how deep I could go before I hit the HVAC system in there. And then we could design a flat pattern box on the plasma that we could bend up, fold. Now that our front of our console is fully mounted and in, and we also have our jump seat in as well, we're gonna work on closing out this console. Fortunately, I was able to squeeze 2 air conditioning lines back here, and then we could get AC to the back seats and put vents here and here into this piece that I have just in a template form. So now that I have all this shaped out, I'm gonna take it to the table, measure it out, cut my piece on the plasma, bend it up, and then we can start attaching it to the back of our console here and get our cool vents positioned for people sitting in the back seats. now that we got space for our vents, we're gonna go back into this console and we're gonna make a little compartment in here. It'll have a cover that's upholstered that'll hinge up and down. That way you could get inside, store some things. Also, we got a little USB charger, so that way you can charge your devices and keep your cords nice and hidden. So here's the start and end points, and we're gonna go pretty wide. We wanna leave room for our ductwork to reach our vents, so we'll make sure that is considered. Basically, it's just gonna be a rectangular cutout. On here, we're gonna dip down in a 45-degree angle. That way we could have our USB sitting on a 45, easy to access. And up here will be a 90 backup. So let's outline this, measure it up, get it cut, and then we could also, first, before we remove it, take a measurement from here down to the tunnel so we know how deep we can make our little compartment. We got our little compartment all welded in and set in here. Next step, we're gonna be building a lid. So we got some piano hinge here that we can bolt in down here. And then we have a thick piece of 1/4-inch aluminum that we can make our design, and then bolt the piano hinge to the bottom side in there. And then we'll have our lid come up and down just like this.
All right, guys, that's pretty much all the fabrication that's gonna get done on the interior of this thing. I'm pretty excited to see what Lee's gonna do with all that leather work. But, you know, when we built our center console originally, there was a bunch of comments saying we needed to add some AC drops for the back passengers. So we went ahead and cut in 2 holes in our console to add those Restomod AC vents. We also got a lot of comments saying we needed a glove compartment, so we added that. Now Homeboy's got a place to put his gloves. Dave did an awesome job on our metal kicker panels. We already got a 1 speaker fit in here, fit really nice, fit like a glove, if you will. Over here, we don't have anything in there, and you could just see how much detail and work that went into those things. So next episode, we are going to be pretty much finishing all the fabrication on this car that needs to get done before we tear it down for paint, like our front dumps for our turbo system, as well as pulling the body off this thing, doing all the final welding on the chassis, adding a couple supports, getting this car onto some scales so we can get that information over to QA1, get our coilovers for it, and we're gonna be scanning the whole front end of this car as well as the stock grille, because we got a custom grille coming for it. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, because we only have a few more episodes on this ride coming out before it gets tore down, painted, and final assembled. We also got a bunch of content coming out on our big block Chevelle. We're gonna be getting Bloodline onto a dyno here soon, as well as anything else that might pop in the shop. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.